Let's begin with the global markets. Chinese stocks closed higher on Tuesday, with the benchmark Shanghai Composite Index up 0.35%. Hong Kong stocks rose 0.21% on Tuesday. The 225-issue Nikkei stock average dropped 0.63%. The U.S. dollar rose against most major currencies on Monday, despite markets' doubt as to whether the Federal Reserve would raise interest rate again this year. Oil prices retreated on Monday as investors worried about climbing U.S. crude production. Gold futures on the COMEX division of the New York Mercantile Exchange climbed to the highest in nearly 2 weeks on Friday, as data on retail sales and inflation stoked concerns that the pace of economic growth may not merit lifting U.S. interest rates again in 2007. Here's the latest on the U.S. stocks from our correspondent Li Ming in New York.
Okay, let's take a look at U.S. stocks market. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Microsoft, and eBay are among the major companies scheduled to release quarterly results this week. According to S&P Capital IQ, overall earnings are expected to grow by 6.2% in the second quarter. Earnings in the first quarter rose by nearly 15%. With no major data due out on Monday, market participants also kept an eye on the oil prices. U.S. crude rose 5.2% last week and started the week hovering around $46 a barrel. Over the past 3 months, oil prices have fallen about 12% as global oversupply concerns still weigh on the market. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq went up 1.04%, 1.41%, and 2.59% respectively. This is Li Ming reporting from New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Li Ming. Now turning to agriculture futures, here is Jack Scoville in Chicago with the latest.
Hi, it's been a choppy two-sided trade in the grain room here today, both higher and lower prices being seen in the corn and the soybeans. Wheat has seen strength in Minneapolis, but the Chicago winter wheat contracts have generally been a little bit lower. The export inspections generally solid across the board. Corn, wheat, and soybeans showing very good inspections once again. So our export demand has been holding together really, really well. The weather is still calling for some hot and dry weather in the western parts of the Corn Belt, with some wet and cooler weather from Wisconsin off to the east into Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. And the trade was expecting to see lower crop condition ratings in the reports that were released overnight. All in all, the market probably can continue to trade sideways to perhaps a little bit higher, as it still tries to assess exactly what the damages are to the U.S. Grain production and oilseed production in the coming year. Thanks very much. This is Jack Scoville. I'm Vice President of Price Futures Group here in the CME Group floor with some comments for the markets.
Thank you, Jack, and we will keep you updated on the daily agriculture futures. Britain and the European Union have launched a new round of Brexit negotiations. Negotiators will focus on key issues including citizens' rights, Britain's exit bill, and the border issue in Northern Ireland. Brexit Secretary David Davis meets with EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier on Monday for 4 days of talks to settle divorce terms. About a month after their first meeting, the two intend to push forward with a detailed plan that could minimize economic and social damage to both Britain and the EU after Brexit. Progress on citizens' rights, the bill Britain has to pay to meet existing commitments, and the border issue in Ireland are the three main issues that have to be resolved before the two sides can start talking about a wide-ranging free trade deal. The EU had demanded that Britain pay some 60 billion euros or $70 billion as exit fee. Negotiation on the exit bill might be especially tough, following British Foreign Minister Boris Johnson's remark last week that the EU could go whistle over its extortionate bill demand. On Thursday, the British government introduced a draft law that would formally end Britain's membership in the European Union, as preparation for eventually breaking away from the EU and gaining back legislation power of parliaments. In March, Prime Minister Theresa May had set a 2-year timetable for leaving the EU and had said the process can be reversed. America's new health care plan looks to be dead in the water. On Monday, two more Republican senators came out in opposition to the proposal, meaning the Trump administration now lacks the numbers to pass the plan. Republicans control the Senate 52 to 48. Last week, Republicans Susan Collins and Rand Paul declared their opposition to the proposed health care bill. The vote was even delayed so that party elder John McCain would recover from an eye operation. With Democrats united in defeating the plan, the White House couldn't afford any more defections. But on Monday, another two did, when the conservatives Mike Lee and Jerry Moran said they couldn't support the bill. Moran said he could not put his stamp of approval on bad policy, saying the proposals didn't go far enough in rolling back Obama-era taxes and regulations. He also called for lower premiums for middle-class families. The collapse will come as a huge blow to the Republicans, who had long sought to tear up Obamacare. Their own proposals promise to reduce costs, threaten to leave as many as 22 million more Americans uninsured in the next decade. Meanwhile, premiums and out-of-pocket spending would increase sharply for low-income people and those about to retire. A poll released on Sunday showed Americans preferred Obamacare to the Republican plan by 50% to 24%. Trade between Russia and the U.S. in the first 5 months of the year is up by 25% compared to last year's. Data from Russia's Federal Customs Service show trade volume with the U.S. reached $8.7 billion from January to May. Russia sold $3.9 billion worth of goods to the U.S. and bought $4.8 billion from it. Bilateral trade began to decline in 2014 when the U.S. and its allies imposed economic sanctions against Russia over its alleged role in the Ukrainian crisis, prompting Moscow to take reciprocal measures. Last year, Russia-U.S. trade dipped under $20 billion, well down from the $29 billion recorded in 2014. Unemployment in the European Union is at its lowest level since the financial crash, but there is worry that the younger generation are being left behind. Economy Report takes a look.
The European Commission's yearly review confirms a positive labor market and continued economic growth in the EU. However, it also shows younger generations are struggling to find jobs. Marianne Thyssen, a European commissioner responsible for employment and social affairs, said that the crisis hit younger workers harder than the older ones. Marianne adds that young generation is also likely to receive lower pensions relative to wages.
Leaving our young people behind is putting at risk our own future, our growth, our welfare and our social model. And we owe it to the younger generations to do everything we can to give them at least the same, if not more, chances to advance and prosper in life.
While better than at its crisis peak, youth unemployment remains a problem across southern Europe, with talk of a lost generation. In Italy, 37%, in Spain, 39%, and in Greece, 47% of young people are currently out of work, more than double the rate of their older peers.
The UK's largest letting agent has warned that the proportion of foreign landlords owning property in the country has fallen to a new low.
Countrywide, which lets 90,000 properties, said just 5% of British homes now have overseas owners, down from 12% in 2010. Foreign investors have previously been blamed for pushing up house prices. The decline is most evident in London, where the proportion of overseas landlords has fallen to 11% from 26%. The decline appears to be the result of tax changes. Some of the investors have bought property in cheaper areas instead. The news was welcomed by tenants groups who said foreign owners had clearly benefited from tax loopholes in the past. Experts say this implies that there has been a gradual net sell-off, which demonstrates that government taxation of foreign property is having some impact in deterring speculation. Unfortunately, that has not prevented house prices rising by more than inflation between 2013 and 2016, pricing millions of renters out of home ownership. The biggest fall in foreign ownership in London has been amongst Europeans. In 2010, they made up 39% of foreign investors, but they now account for 28%. Asians have taken over as the biggest buyers in London.
New research shows tuition hikes and growing students' debt burdens in recent years have resulted in a sharp drop in home ownership among young Americans. Research by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimates that as much as 35% of the decline in young American aging from 28 to 30 home ownership from 2007 to 2015 is due to higher student debt loans. The study challenges a popular idea that more education brings greater future wealth. The repercussions of this could be huge for the U.S. economy, as purchasing property is the primary way the U.S. households build wealth. Analysts worry that with less wealth, young Americans could cut back on their spending. Household spending accounts for around 70% of the U.S. economic growth. Turning to Australia, where a new report predicts the country to be in a good position for selling food products to Asia's growing middle class. According to Food Innovation Australia Limited, or FIO, Australian businesses are among the most innovative in the world, and so are in a good place to meet challenging global appetites. FIO suggests that Australia's agribusiness must develop greater market intelligence and access, especially in Asia. Revealing the report, FIO Chairman Peter Shrews said that consumers are looking for differentiated products that cater to their needs. He said this is especially exciting for Australian food and agribusinesses, which have the capability to respond with customized and niche products. Australia will see a further slowdown in home building as gravity may soon start to catch up with stupidity in the real estate market. That's according to a quarterly business outlook released on Monday by Deloitte Access Economics. Property prices in Sydney and Melbourne have spiraled, so has household debt. The outlook warns that Australia's housing market needs to reconnect with reality. Due to property buyers looking to cash in on historically low interest rates at 1.5%, an oversupply of housing may loom closely in capital cities, with low wage growth and higher household debt continuing to worry economists. Last year, Sydney's median house price has increased 14%, while Melbourne prices have gone up 13%. Thailand will mainly use local funds to build its $5.3 billion high-speed railway, which will link Thailand's border with Laos to eastern ports and industrial zones.
The Thai Finance Ministry made the announcement in a press conference in Bangkok on Monday. The rail line will link Thailand's border with Laos to eastern ports and industrial zones. The link has been held up by years of negotiation over everything from cost and loan terms to land development rights. Last month, the Thai government invoked an executive order to kickstart the project. Under terms agreed so far, Thailand will fund the project and China will provide technical assistance. The government will also seek some foreign borrowing and is negotiating with the Export-Import Bank of China, but no conclusion has been reached.
China on Monday reported steady growth of 6.9% for the first half of the year, though the figure was overshadowed by reform progress and performance in new economic sectors. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, or the NBS, consumption and service, together with the innovation-driven new economic sectors, are taking up larger roles in the economy. Some economists have given their analysis on the data. The high-tech and equipment manufacturing sectors are leading the country's industrial growth with year-on-year output increases of 13.1% and 11.5% in the first half, respectively, compared with a 6.9% rise in overall output. A spokesperson with the NBS said new economic strength is on a rise. In the first 6 months, up to 45.6% of the total industrial investment went into technological improvement, paving the way for future industrial upgrades. An analyst of industrial security said in the first half of this year, the industrial production accelerated. The investment growth kept steady, and the market sales growth accelerated while the online retail achieved strong growth.
China's economy growth in the first half of this year was within a moderate and controllable range in total. The market is in a better condition compared with the same period last year. GDP kept steady and the supply-side structural reform and new development concepts conducted in the first half of this year.
The MBS said progress is also being made in the country's supply-side structural reform and growth engine shift. The service sector, already accounting for 54.1% of the overall economy, expanded 7.7% year-on-year in the first half. In terms of destocking in the property market, the floor space of unsold homes were down 9.6% at the end of June.
I think one of the important elements is that destocking of China's real estates conducted successfully. While many thought the real estate sales and investment credit are likely to go down under the strict property restriction and mortgage policy, the data looks good, however. So this investment is likely to be a strong stimulus to the economy as a whole. The consumption data also exceeded market expectations, on the other hand, which means enthusiasm for consumer spending is still here, including household appliances and other expenses relating to urbanization.
The ongoing economic transition and structural reform sparked optimism on China's future growth outlook. In the second quarter, GDP growth was steady at 6.9% year-on-year, flat from the first quarter, but well above the government's annual growth target of 6.5%. Chinese President Xi Jinping said China should improve its investment and market environment, accelerate opening up to the outside world, and lower operating costs. Xi made the remarks at the meeting of the Central Leading Group on Finance and Economic Affairs. The president said an important goal of building an open economy is to stimulate improvement of domestic institutions and laws for higher efficiency and greater competitive strength in a global market. She said foreign investment has played a significant role in China's economic development, promoting reasonable allocation of resources and driving market-oriented reforms. He said China should continue to make good use of foreign investment to advance supply-side structural reforms, upgrade the economy, and catch up with global technology development. Officials from China and Indonesia have met in Jakarta to discuss how to speed up the foreigner work permits. Speaking at a seminar, Minister Counselor of the Chinese Embassy Wang Liping said that despite the rapid development of China-Indonesia relations, there are still some challenges. Among them was the untimely issuance of work permit for staff of Chinese companies in Indonesia.
The two sides should address it accordingly, expecting that a balance between the phenomenal Chinese investors' influx and adequacy of permit issuance for Chinese skilled workers can be achieved in Indonesia.
Wang called for enhanced cooperation between China and Indonesia and more human resources training to deliver enough skilled workers for Chinese projects. Meanwhile, an Indonesian official said Indonesia has now simplified its foreign work permit procedure.
The new simplified application process is not directly linked to the immigration office. After the applicants submitted their applications to the Manpower Ministry through the online service.
He also lauded Wang's proposal to enhance human resources training, saying it would benefit Indonesia as more local people can be recruited to work in Chinese projects. Heading to some company news, and Wells Fargo is preparing to shed a number of its businesses as the U.S. bank tries to restore investor confidence in the wake of the fake account scandal.
The second largest U.S. bank by market value admitted last September that 2 million potentially unauthorized checking and credit card accounts were opened between 2011 and 2015. Financial Times reported this on Sunday. Bank employees faked signatures and PIN numbers to sign up consumers for accounts and credit cards without their knowledge. Wells Fargo recently announced it would pay $142 million to settle the class action lawsuit. U.S. Fed announced on Monday that it will fine BNP Paribas and some of its U.S. subsidiaries $246 million for its unsafe and unsound practices in foreign exchange markets. According to the statement, the BNP Paribas was found deficiencies in its oversight and internal controls over its forex trading, as the bank failed to detect and address that its traders used electronic chat rooms to communicate with competitors about their trading positions. In January, a former BNP Paribas trader was banned by the Fed from participating in the banking industry for his manipulation for forex prices. Dubai's government-controlled Emirates Airline, the international carrier of the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, said on Monday it agreed with budget carrier Fly Dubai to expand their code-share agreement and align their frequent flyer programs. The upgraded cooperation will lead to scheduled alignment and network optimization to serve their passengers. Both airlines will continue to be managed independently, but they will leverage each other's network to scale up their operations and accelerate growth. The partnership will go beyond code sharing and include integrated network collaboration with coordinated scheduling. Renault, France's second biggest car maker, on Monday announced rising sales in the first half on resilient demand in Middle East, African, and Asian markets. For the January to June period, French automaker saw its sales up by 10.4% compared with the same period last year, after providing world markets with 1.88 million vehicles. Over the period, the Asia-Pacific region absorbed 100,452 units, up by 50.5%. In China, Renault sold about 36,000 vehicles, thanks to strong performance of new Coleos launched in late 2016 and produced locally. In Europe, the group registrations grew by 5.6%, making it the second most sold brand in Europe.
"云天无际，承载梦想。中国南方航空是中国运输飞机最多、航线网络最发达、年客运量最大的航空公司。亚洲第一，全球第三，是南航缔造的业界奇迹。蓝天壮志情，云海谱华章。
专业的团队，丰厚的经验。
Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Lake Cook Law Group.
投资理财、法律咨询，芝加哥专业律师团队为您的梦想提供最安全的保障。
Hi, this is Little Chinese Channel, 小小中文 Lesson 37. In this lesson, we will be studying these 6 Chinese characters. From Lesson 3, we learned the character 人. If we put a 时 from Lesson 1 under it and 2 dots, this character is 伞 means umbrella. 降落伞 means parachute. If we turn it back into 人 and put a horizontal stroke and a ko from Lesson 13, this character is 和 means to combine. 和记 means sum. These 2 characters have 和 in them. Now, if we turn it back into 人 and put a 云 under 人, 云 is from lesson 29. 会 means to be able to. 会做 means be able to do. So we turn it back into 人 and put a horizontal stroke, small ko from lesson 13, and a 2 strokes. These 2 strokes are also one radical, this stroke and that stroke. We will learn this radical in lesson 40. 命 means life. 生命 means life. Time for a new root character. We have a 2 from lesson 11 and put a downstroke to the left, and a B from lesson 7 to make 老 means old. 老人 means old man. We switch B with 日 from lesson 22. This character is 者 means person. 作者 means author. Okay, let's write. Remember when you're writing to follow the stroke sequence. San 和 会 命 保 者 Bye-bye, the lesson is done. Shark attack! Attack!